So basically what was taking place was I didn't understand that there was a certain amount of questions I should have been asking about what I should be practicing while I'm doing this. What symptoms should I watch for? What should I be cautious about? Even maybe what foods I should be eating in general. I kind of just continued with eating, even though I was doing something healthier. I was eating healthier at the time. But the person who put me on it didn't know that I was also vegetable juicing, fruit juicing. I was exercising in the sun very heavily. And, you know, he really should have asked, but such as it was, that's how it went at the time. And I was reaching this peak of feeling very good. And then all of a sudden, everything shifted, and I had a pain on my right side, in my liver, and my eyes got very puffy. And so I called him and asked what had happened. And he does a medical diagnostic testing by scanning you. And he said, well, what happened is for you, it's like a double-edged sword, because you were able to detoxify so fast, or too quickly, as he put it at that time, that it clogged your liver. And you have a toxic liver situation right now that if you were in the hospital with it and went in there, they would be selling you a big fear story right now. They would be alarmed. So it was a serious situation that happened, and I learned then early on that we need to be very careful about cleansing in general, doing any type of work that would involve a formula that would be specifically to do this and remove heavy metals from my system. And so after that, I participated in the lemonade cleanse, which I did for 6 days in a row. That was very wonderful, a very positive experience. And then, of course, after that, as I moved forward, went into 2 years ago, I did, as I talked about before, a very nice structured 6-week cleanse with someone, actually, Joey Lester. Thank you, Joey. He put me on a structured space of exactly what herbs to take to assist with myself changing my diet from vegetarian to vegan at that time. What times to take them, what other formulas I could use, how to use psyllium husk in order to help to absorb the toxins and take them out of my system and act as a brush through my colon. So very important factors are involved with how to prepare for a fast or a cleanse, and how to even break a fast or a cleanse. So we are going to bring Ivo on, who has made it to the show. Yay! I had my first experiences with things going kablooey to begin. So we're still here, so here we go. And I do want to remind the listening audience that Ivo and myself are not medical professional health practitioners, and we are offering our opinions, our interests, our experiences, our research and study that we have worked with, and especially Ivo here. He's the expert here. And we are offering this not to tell you exactly what to do, but as a guidance to what you can research on your own and make your own personal choices. It is our highest spiritual interest here that you are able to, if you are either venturing in, continuing, or need some motivation, that you make it to the hundreds of thousands of testimonials of people who have cured every known illness. And the secret here is the word cured, released from their system through these detoxification processes. So with that, I'm going to open up the mic and welcome Ivo here. Hello, Ivo.
Hello, hello.
Oh, how are you? I don't know why that was
able to connect now.
Okay, good thinking. It takes that male thinking sometimes to think of those different versions of what to do by putting the link right there in the private message. So glad you made it in. I'm going to get out of Facebook there right now, and then we can continue. So we opened up here. I told a little bit of my own personal experiences so far. And what I wanted to start out with was taking a look at how true naturopathy, which is what detoxification is versus what allopathic medicine is in regards to their approach with treatment-based methodologies that they are using. So could you take us into, first of all, the general term detoxification? Maybe, I know the subcomponents are cleansing and fasting in there, but what does detoxification first mean is how it's different from treatment-based methodologies? Hello? Okay, it looks like he disconnected somehow there. Okay, so I can hear him trying to click back in, but he is not able to hear me. So we will just wait until he says hello again there, and he will be back in. Basically, in the past, with people's work like Arnold Ehret's work that began 100 years ago already, and I want to emphasize 100 years ago already, hold on, I am just going to simply get back on Facebook to make sure that if he needs to connect for some reason again, he can communicate with me through that way. So Arnold Ehret was the first one who, here he is, okay. Hello, Ivo.
I'm here.
So
the computer went to... Yeah, I had to call in with my phone.
Okay, so I know we were trying to avoid any extra clicking tonight. So were you able to hear my first question about approaching detoxification?
No, it cut off for me.
Okay, so basically I had opened up with asking if we look at the space of detoxification, which is true naturopathy approaches to healing, as opposed to allopathic medicine that does treatment-based protocols, what are we talking about that makes detoxification different? So you can just bring us into that topic in a general space, first of all.
Well, with different detox protocols, we're believing that the body has the innate ability to heal itself when it's given the correct tools, space, and that it needs to do so. So whereas allopathy looks at the body as God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, made a mistake, made a faulty machine that's always breaking down, and they need to suppress symptoms with pharmaceuticals and for life, because diseases basically aren't curable and the body is incapable of healing itself and reversing the condition it has. So I think with there's different detoxification protocols, there's different ideas of naturopathy, like how different naturopath doctors will approach healing is different with different ones. But the idea, and some naturopath doctors are suppressing symptoms as well with herbs and other things. Not getting to the root cause. So not necessarily all the time naturopathic doctor might be, well, at least they're not using petrochemicals. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
But the different detox protocols allows the body to a much needed break from heavy digestion, especially someone who's coming from a standard, heavy, what we call the standard American diet, but it's the way that the whole world eats, whether you're eating animal products, starches, and vegetables and fruits all in one sitting a lot of times, and not respecting digestive times, and just basically putting stuff in our mouth every waking moment, and the digestive tract never getting a rest. So with these different protocols, detox protocols, it gives our digestive tract the rest, whether it be we're just eating fruits or vegetables, whether, there's different ways, whether we're doing juice fasting, whether we're doing water fasting. There's so many different ones that they do, and it gives it a rest and makes it a lot easier on the digestion, and then, with different protocols utilizing herbs to address different glands and systems of the body.
Okay. So first of all, approaching in, it's that detoxification gives the body a rest from digestion that allows it the time and the energy to put it towards healing, an innate healing space. Okay. So that's a different approach. And then the naturopathy, and I remember also reading in Dr. Morse's books, yes, that there are some naturopathic approaches that are still treatment-based, but a true naturopathy is actual detoxifying and removing food items that are causing problems in the body and then allowing the body to heal itself. And so as we move into the subcomponents of what detoxification is, we already have talked in our other shows about how moving to a plant-based diet, which does eliminate food items, the body does start a natural detoxification process. And after that, if someone has moved into that, they generally may be considered doing a cleanse. So let's say, for example, in the past, some of the first cleanses that I, had heard about were the lemonade cleanse, where you would drink only lemonade, fresh squeezed lemonade, with using 100% maple syrup and blackstrap molasses, which I found that to be very helpful. And
yeah, with the cayenne pepper, that's the Stanley Burroughs.
Yes.
Master cleanse.
So, the master cleanse, that's exactly what that was, yeah. And then after that, there were also box cleanses. So the Renew box cleanses were a process that people were using, and some box cleanses are still out there. And it would go through a body part one at a time. So just in looking at that aspect of it, well, first, what are your feelings about using a box cleanse in order to, say, someone who's thinking about using one of them? Have you thought about that? Have you used them before? What are your feelings about them?
I guess I understand what you mean by box cleanse. It comes with certain herbs, or I'm not sure. I know, like, for example, Dr. Morse has, for the people who don't get a personalized protocol written out for them, he has a 14-week protocol which anybody can do no matter what their condition is.
Okay.
And which is basically herbal kit for 14 weeks, and to help people on a detox process while eating fruits and vegetables. But what exactly are these box cleanses they contain?
They would be herbal supplements. Some of them in the past, they did use tablets, which I'm not thinking that's such a good idea right now to use tablets as much because they're so hard compacted. But that was just something that people, let's say some people might be running into, a GNC or something and picking up a box cleanse. And the thing is, I've always seen where there's a total body cleanse you can do, and then there's each different body part. So if we compare that to what current people are doing now, like Dr. Morse, does that type of a protocol go through one set of organs at a time? Because I've heard that you should start with the lower organs first of all and work your way up. Is that true?
Well, with Dr. Morse's protocol, he's always addressing the lymphatic system, stomach and bowels, the endocrine system, and I'm thinking of that for the endocrine, the lymphatic, the stomach and bowels. Slipped me. And one more thing, and then he builds from there, which he calls the Fab Four. And then he builds from there. He'll do some parasite cleanse because he wants to get rid of the parasites, and and then from there you can add a liver formula to address the liver. But all the protocols will always address the stomach and bowels, the endocrine system, the lymphatic system.
First of all.
Yeah. So it's always, no matter what week you are, what month you are, and what herbs are tied to it, he's always cleaning the GI tract, moving, try to, stimulate lymph. Oh, and also addressing the kidneys. So because basically the idea with Dr. Morse's system is basically you want to move your lymph and that your kidneys are filtering your lymph. And so it's a delicate balance where you don't want to attack the lymph too hard if your kidneys aren't filtering. So, but all the protocols are addressing lymph, kidneys, endocrine system, and the stomach and bowels because you want to clean out that GI tract to be able to move the toxins out. So, and then he just adds on to that, depending upon an iridology reading and also your account of exactly what you have. They'll put a personalized herbal protocol, so it's personalized to you. But for those that haven't gone with a counselor to get a personalized protocol, they can do his 14-week cleanse, and it's a general one that for everybody. And I think all these cleanses, they're great, but the main component is the diet. If you're just going to do the herbs, but you're not doing the diet, then my opinion is that they're wasting their time and money.
Okay, so your feeling about it is, to any people listening in the audience, which I think is an excellent point, and I fully agree with that the diet should be approached at best with the space of being very open to continuing on a plant-based diet at least until you've succeeded, in healing the spaces that you were first maybe approaching this area in. Okay.
Yeah.
But the important point, and as I was talking about my experiences earlier with getting my liver very clogged, was that when I went into that particular space with that first heavy metal detox, I was not clean enough in my bowels and kidneys in general enough to be able to handle all of the heavy metals, and they got clogged in my liver, and it was a very dangerous situation. And you and I have both read about situations where people have not followed good protocol and have experienced even death in situations. So there is caution with approaching this space. But in general, would you say that when someone already does start to put themselves on a plant-based diet slowly, that their body is beginning to cleanse itself?
Yeah, in general, yes, to some extent, and it'll be different for everybody. But now we have to define plant-based diet because someone can be on a plant-based diet but still clogging up their system. So if it's a high-fat plant-based diet, we're talking about whole foods plant-based, I'm sure. But still, the macros, whether we're talking about a high-fat diet, that's not going to really heal. I mean, anytime you clean up your diet, I guess even if it's really high-fat at first, it'll be you'll get some noticeable differences for sure until you hit a plateau, and then you got to keep tweaking and get cleaner and cleaner with the diet. And but for sure, yeah, one to get to with the doctor. Yeah, with the Dr. Morse, or even with a lot of the Gerson therapies, with using raw juices, using raw foods, trying to get enzymes in there, and we're talking about more live foods that haven't been altered by heat to aid the body in detoxifying quicker and being less of a burden to the body by not ingesting these heavier to digest foods or denatured foods. Yes.
And again, so that emphasis that when we are approaching making sure that there is filtration happening and that the bowels are somewhat cleaned out already of parasites and mucoid plaque, etc., before someone does a very heavy detox situation, because it can send too much material waste into the bloodstream also. Okay. Let's look at a lot of people have done, myself included in the past, one of the liver flushes. So you and I are familiar that Andreas Moritz has, I'm not sure if he was the pioneer of it, and maybe he was. I had strolled into doing a liver flush myself many years ago already, maybe about a good 15 years ago, maybe more. And I didn't at that time use the Epsom salt, but I was having gallbladder issues at the time and decided to eat organic apples then from a protocol I saw for 1 week's time to start to soften the stones. And then I slowly over a week started to have the combination of olive oil and lemon juice. And then, of course, the one night before, drinking, nearly the 1 cup of mostly olive oil and a 1/4 cup of fresh squeezed lemon juice. And literally that next morning, from sleeping on the correct side with that also, then next morning passed those gallstones and my pain was completely gone. So that is definitely, and, I took it slow, approached it properly. At that time, I was continuing with food habits that I wasn't aware of were what needed to be changed. I was not, as well, researched as I am right now. But at this time, a lot of people within their cleansing and fasting that they're doing, they also do liver flushes. So are you familiar with, do you want to have, tell us a little bit about Andreas Moritz's liver flush and liver cleanse?
Yeah, Andreas Moritz, he basically in his book says to prepare, I believe it's 5 or 6 days, where you're going to start drinking apple juice every day for the malic acid, which allows for the loosening up of the stones. And the day of the flush, I think you don't want to eat after 12. When I administer them, I tell people just to juice fast that day. You want to do an enema before you do the cleanse, the day that you're going to do it, and then also the day after you do it. So that way you help remove obstructions. That way the stones are not just stuck in there and suffer any other consequences. So the day of, usually I believe it, what was it, at 9? And I don't remember exactly, at 9 o'clock, roughly around that time, you drink your concoction of olive oil with grapefruit juice, or not grapefruit juice, could be with lemon, and you lay down on your right side, and you go to sleep for the night pretty early. 9 o'clock when you drink it, and then the next day when you have your movements, you're also drinking the Epsom salts. That day you're drinking several glasses of Epsom salts. It's pretty disgusting, but the idea with the Epsom salts is to loosen up the bile ducts, so that way for the bigger stones not to get stuck. Dr. Morse is against, Dr. Morse's liver flush is pretty much the same, but without the Epsom salts, because he believes that's a little too aggressive. It is kind of hard to get it down anyways to drink Epsom salts for anybody who's had that. They're really bitter. And the next day you see all the different colors. Could be green, could be yellow, could be brown, especially if you use a colander when you go to the restroom. When you do the enema. Yes, a lot of the next day they'll come out as you flush yourself with the enema or a Colino board, because if you're having a bowel movement, you won't really, the stones can be hidden within that, but you usually see it during the enema or the colonic. And a lot of people do that, and he recommends some people. He says keep doing it until no stones come out, and some people do it and no stones come out, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't done anything. It maybe have moved the stones to the forefront, and in the next one or the third one, they'll start coming out. So not everybody gets to see the stones the first time, but it doesn't mean that it didn't work. It's just moving the stones up front, and then slowly get the next time. And you want to do it we don't recommend to do it more than once every 3 weeks. And he recommends to do it with the full moon because of the pull of the moon on our body. We're mostly water, and so it has a better effect if we do it during full moon.
Yes. Yeah, I also followed some of that also with the full moon and doing dry fasting at certain times when Joey put me on that extensive cleanse. And would you say that, let's say an average person comes along and they hear about this and they're generally eating bad foods, but they run across, I could do a liver flush. Do you think it's an appropriate idea for someone to just do a liver flush without having some transitory preparation?
Yeah, I say no because the thing is that if they're eating a standard American diet, which is by definition a high-fat diet, it's not going to work because when you're preparing for this liver flush, you're not eating any overt fats.
Okay.
So, and if you're eating a standard American diet, which, fried foods, meats, dairy, eggs, even if you're eating a vegan diet that's high in fat, I don't recommend it, not if you're doing the liver flush. So, no, I would worry with those. I mean, I think everybody starting interested in detoxing should start with diet before they look into doing flushes or fasts or anything like that. Just cleaning up their diet and transitioning towards a cleaner diet. That in itself will clean out some stuff because the body's always detoxing. Every single day the body is detoxing. Just doing the best we can to get rid of toxins. And we're getting bombarded by not just toxins in our food, but our environment. And so I think just a diet for those people, to start with diet, and they will clean out, and they will get rid of some stones by cleaning up their diet as well. They might not see it because they'll pass it in the bowel movement, but also that'll help. True,
but very good advice so that anyone who comes across that information, say on the internet, that because a lot of people do their own, research, that they should work with it following good preparation. Okay, so so the two words versus fasting, is it one and the same, interchangeable? I know they're both parts of events that happen in protocols that happen in detoxification in general. But for anybody first walking in, they're hearing these two terms because sometimes people will say, I'm going to do, a juice cleanse or I'm going to do a juice fast. So can you give us a little bit of, what you feel is a little more clear idea of using these terms? Are they very interchangeable or?
And you mean the term between cleanse or fast?
Yes, those two terms, because sometimes we hear someone say,
they both can, I know. And then really a lot of them are just marketing terms, but also fast just means abstaining from, it doesn't necessarily mean abstaining from food. Fasting is just abstaining from certain foods, like, the Catholics might do, on Easter Friday or something, it just in many different cultures abstain from certain foods at different times. But any abstaining from any certain foods or certain items is technically a fast. And a cleanse, there's a lot of things being marketing as cleanse. Are they really cleaning you or are they just taking your money,
Okay.
I see there's a lot of marketing schemes to just basically take people's money and tricking them to thinking that if they just not change their diet and just taking some supplements, that alone is going to clean them out, and I disagree with that.
That is exactly the type of information I would like people to have available to them. Yes, that understanding. Can you give us any general examples without maybe throwing anything, person or product line under the bus? Can you kind of give us some general examples of what you think is something that's not really in bringing someone what they need?
I mean, there's just, I guess, so many because it's so popular now, because we live in a world where we want instant gratification and everything has to be done today, whether it be a juice bar offering a one-day juice cleanse. Okay, that's good. That's good, but if you're going to go back to eating the way you did, you gave your body a break, but for one day, but you're not making any progress, or sometimes you might get these. There's so many different kinds. I mean, diet cleanses, or all these 3-day cleanses, or who knows, different proprietary blends of herbs, or some are synthetic formulas, and they're just selling product, which. Short-term cleansing the body is not something you do 1 week or 1 month. It's an ongoing process, and it's not something that you do for just a week or 3 days. And so these are just marketing schemes, and I don't believe that any of these people and you see any improvement. They might see some improvements those 3 days, but then they go right back to where they were at, whether it be with weight or whatever it is, because they don't have an understanding of what's causing their ailments or their obesity or what it may be, that they're trying to cleanse from.
Exactly. That's precisely what I think is important to be talking about, that there are very many marketing schemes and more looking for, profit and greed, and anyone just wandering in and doing research, if they haven't already found their way to good sources like Dr. Morse or Arnold Ehret, for example, then it's easy to be persuaded in a quick fix. So I think that's excellent advice and very good to talk about. So when people do their research, anyone listening can understand that really go back to the basics and work with structure. And if it's a little bit of an experience, there was something that Arnold Ehret had written in his book about everyone can basically do 2 to 3 days of fasting and be okay. But if 50 to 60% of healthy men, and the next number was something like 80 to 90% of chronically ill people did a very long-term fast, they wouldn't live through it because they are so toxic, and that was already 100 years ago when he was talking about that. So it's something one to be approached seriously with, and appropriately. Can you give us an example of right now? Take us through when right now very many people, and this is even for the people who are way up in it already, or let's say the middle ground. They're looking at is juice fasting, all juice fasting, or all fruit fasting, intermittent fasting, water fasting, dry fasting. If someone was approaching, for example, those types of fasts, is there an order that one could experiment with them in their journey that is safer?
Yeah, I would say, first and foremost, change the diet, as we discussed, work to transitioning the diet before you even think about fasting. And on that path, look into, I would say, intermittent fasting, or really intermittent feeding, because, but the people who do water fasting, they're talking, they say, well, it's for a male, it takes about 3 days to enter ketosis, a female, roughly 2 days, supposedly. Those are the numbers. And so you're not entering ketosis where the body is breaking down fat when you're not, when you're just fasting 12 hours or even 24.
Okay.
Abstaining from food, but having a shorter window. So for most people, they can do a 12-hour ingestion window or a 12-hour intermittent fasting, meaning 12 hours you don't eat. You could drink water in those 12 hours that you don't eat, but part of those 12 hours is 8-hour sleeping window, and or whatever it is. So some people sleep 6 or 7, or a little bit more, and try to just make your ingestion window 12 hours, and just that alone will give your body at least 12 hours to own that doesn't have food and have to worry about digesting new food. And just starting that way, and then eventually look into maybe doing some kind of juice fast once a week, or maybe 1 day a week or something like that, where you have a break. Once you get used to that intermittent fasting, you could try to do that as you're transitioning your diet. And then later on, maybe do a 3-day fast in 1 month or something. You try that. And then little by little, you just gradually move up as you need it. And now a lot of people do also get over obsessed with fasting and cleansing, and some may not be warranted or may not be needed, and some yes. But it depends on each person. Yeah,
I've
it's
seen
easy to get over obsessed. Yeah, over obsessed.
It's a very good point to be bringing out those who are in pretty much the middle level and moving up, that it is becoming sometimes a competition level, in a sense, even to post, this is what I did and I'm this extreme, and, it's being fueled by, what they can post, as opposed to whether, I exactly agree with you, whether they need it or not. Should the body does it need that extreme in that sense again? Can we go back just a little bit for those people who are new to this area? What does intermittent fasting, or as you put it, intermittent feeding mean? What do you mean intermittent?
Yeah, as basically it's that you have a window of time where you're not eating. So intermittent fasting means that, let's say, like I said, the 12-hour, for example, to start with. So 12 hours, you're not eating. You could drink water if you like, or you can do a 12-hour dry fast, meaning you're not ingesting any liquids or food. But for most beginners, if they're just changing their diet from a standard diet, then probably allow them to drink some water or some tea with no sweetener, and that some non-caffeinated tea, herbal teas. And so basically, you have 12 hours where you're not ingesting any solid food. You could drink water, or you could do a dry fast where you're not ingesting liquids either. But for beginners, I wouldn't worry about that too much. And so that's 12 hours of not eating. And then you're eating only in a window of 12 hours. Some people do it in 8 hours ingestion window. There are some people doing 1 meal a day, and they call it intermittent fasting, but they're drinking herbal teas or water or other things that are not spiking their blood sugar.
Okay. And is there,
during the day.
Do you have a general type of water that you recommend?
There's different arguments about this. Some people say distilled water because our body cannot process inorganic minerals, and so the thing is that if some people say spring water because it's moving water, right? And it has different minerals in it, but people are saying we can't really absorb those. So many of us, and I drink distilled. Can I exactly tell you? Every once in a while, I might have some spring water. If I'm in a situation where that's the only thing that's available. For a long time, I didn't drink water. I was always drinking juices and. I eat a high, fruit and raw diet, so I'm getting my liquids through there. But lately, the past, I would say past 5 months, 6 months, I've been reintroducing water. I don't drink a lot of it, but my body doesn't want any juices. After so many years of doing so many different juice fasts, my body is real sensitive to juices, sweet juices, especially if they're really sweet. That's me. I wasn't in the past, so I'm drinking some water now. But and everybody everybody, feel their, body out. But yeah, the consensus amongst most raw food is it's the distilled water if you're going to drink water. But you have those that say spring water. In nature, yes, if we believe that we're frugivore by design, then, we'll be getting, like our closest relatives, which are the chimp or the bonobo. It's not, you don't see them by a river or lake, drinking. They're getting most of their liquids. I'm sure they drink some water out of leaves and things like that, but the bulk of their liquids are getting it from the food they eat. It's only the herbivores and the carnivores that you see at a water well,
Okay.
they're eating foods with less water, so they need to drink more.
Okay. And so if a person say they want to go on a juice fast, and they obviously have a choice of doing either a fruit juice fast or a vegetable juice fast, do you have any recommendations for, thoughts about those two? Is there differences between using either one of them? Are there different times you would use one over the other?
Yeah, for sure. Well, one is, are they transitioning their diet first? Did they transition their diet? I mean, before, like we talked about, before they take on a juice fast, and, there's people like John Rose and other proponents that talk about, well, you know what, you can just go on a solid food vacation from any diet and drink. It's a specified way of drinking. But John Rose talks about drinking your vegetable juices and your fruit juices for 3 months, for 90 days, and then it'll be easier for you to just go cold turkey to a raw food diet. I didn't do it that way. I can understand how that would work for many people, but for some people, they might need longer. And so I think it's gentler and easier for them to transition their diet. And depending on where they're at in their diet, some people can't handle fruit or much less fruit juice. They get bloating, gas, so that means they're obstructed. So they can't handle fruit juices or fruit, because fruit, especially your acid fruit category or your citruses, okay, even your subacid category, they're more, especially the acid category, but they're astringent, and so they pull on your GI tract. And if you've got obstructions, you're going to get gassy if you're really obstructed. So some people maybe have to go slower and do the vegetable route. The vegetable just doesn't mean that you can't put some fruit in there, like maybe people do celery, leafy greens, and some apple to sweeten and things like that. But it's a gentler. It's not aggressive like the fruit juice fast. That really moves things along a lot more. If you think about it, when you buy detergent for your dishes, you always see citrus fruits, right? Lemon, orange, right? Grapefruit. Yeah. You never see like banana dish detergent. You never see steak dish detergent. You never see sweet potato. No, because those things aren't astringent. Those won't take the grime off. So same thing where, these juices act like liquid Drano, grape juice with lemon, grapefruit juice, orange juice, even a watermelon juice, all the berry juices. These things are astringent and pull on there. And for some people, it might be too aggressive. And for those people, you'd want to do more vegetable-based. And even if you're doing a long juice fast, fruit juice fast, depending on how long you're doing it, depending on where you're at in your journey, some people embark on a long juice fast a little too early in their journey, and you might have some issues where you need some more minerals, and so you might want to do more green juices. Yeah, you want to incorporate some green juices as well into your fruit juice protocol. Okay.
Very good advice. Very, very good advice. And then as we continue into the fasting space, the big talk, around town right now is dry fasting. So can you tell us what dry fasting, of course, that's abstinence from, any liquids or food, and what exactly is happening inside the body with a dry fast versus doing a juice fast of some type?
Well, when you're doing a juice fast, you're not abstaining from ingesting nutrition. Okay, when you're doing a water fast or a dry fast, there's no nutrition coming in, other than vitamin D from the sun or any other things that don't require to go through the mouth. So the difference is that your body enters into autophagy, where the body starts creating ketone bodies out of the fat it breaks down and releasing toxins into the bloodstream. So it's much more aggressive to do a water fast or a dry fast. A dry fast, you're not getting any liquid, so the body's going to be looking for all the, really going to be more aggressive at breaking things down. It's going to need water from, and you're not getting it from an exterior source, so it's going to be pulling. It's kind of like squeezing your body like a rag when you're just squeezing all the water out. And that's what the body's doing. And then when you hydrate again, it's like hydrating that rag again. So some people may do a juice fast and do maybe every week do some dry fast days, maybe 1 day dry fast or 2 day dry fast. And then so it's kind of like wringing that rag and filling it up, wringing that rag and filling it up. So it's more aggressive, and it allows for faster cleansing. But now, because I said that it allows for faster cleansing, the dry fasting, it can be dangerous for some people. That we all need to work on level where we can be at, because it dehydrates us. Some people have died from dry fasting. Okay. So it needs to be entered with prudence, understanding it's not an ego trip or competition. So it's serious business, and people just need to go little by little. If they've never done it before, they try to intermittent fasting first, and then you build yourself up, and then eventually you get to where you try a 24-hour dry fast, and then 36 and 48, and keep moving from there.
Absolutely.
But it's much more aggressive. And I want to talk about, too, there's the idea, Dr. Morse brought up the idea that basically peeing in a jar, because he lived in a van in a Volkswagen bus, and he didn't have a bathroom, so he would urinate in a jar, and then he would see sediment in there. And he never realized that he thought that was normal for everybody to do so, until he started, working with a lot of people and realized that a lot of people don't have sediment in their urine. And what people are noticing is that when they dry fast, they get more sediment. But that could also, some people don't agree exactly with Dr. Morse, and they say your body is dehydrated. And so because you're not taking in liquids, you're seeing more sediment. Whereas if you're drinking liquids, it's more diluted, and it's harder to see the sediment unless you put it in the fridge to where it can, the particles can separate, and then you can see them.
Okay. I think that's a very good cautionary note also.
Because this idea of kidney filtering comes from Dr. Morse. It's not scientifically, tested or proven. This is an idea. You either resonate with it or you don't. But it's not. This is not science, or it's not something that's been, been confirmed that that's exactly what's going on. And some people talk about, well, that's really your body in a dehydrated state when you dry fast.
Okay. Yes, I have also, run across that information that it hasn't been scientifically looked at for what it is. Okay. Very good. So nice precautions to look at there. Arnold Ehret had talked about, that as you begin to fast, so let's just in general, not only just fasting, but detoxification in general. Someone's going into changing their diet, or let's say they're going into a cleanser, a fast, and he said basically for the first few days, 5 to 6 days, you may feel very good because there are certain processes in the blood, and with removing the excess water that is in the body, the superfluous water is being drawn out. But then day after that, maybe day 6 or so, you may not be feeling so good. So can you take us a little bit through and you've had extensive experience yourself, correct, with a very long master fast, if you want to use that as an example. What types of symptoms start to come up when you are detoxifying in general?
Well, there are different symptoms that people can have. You can have headaches, can feel real weak and tired. Some days you can feel on top of the world, real energetic and a sharp mind and happy, and other days you're depressed and down. It's both emotional and physical. There's different symptoms that you'll feel, and it's going to be different for everybody. But basically, you go through cycles where you're releasing some toxins, so you won't feel so good. You release them. You might have a few days of that, and then you might feel good for a while, and then it's like uncovering different layers of an onion, and each time it's digging a little deeper. So it goes in sections, if you will.
Okay. So for people going in, for them to understand the symptoms, that if you're in the process of a cleanse or a fast, that you may feel good for a while, and then you may come to a point where there's a lot of eliminating happening, and there's a lot of waste in your system, and that can give you these detox-type symptoms. Arnold Ehret had talked about, as he moved through that, then he made the notation in his book that on the 20th day you may be feeling really good, and him and a younger friend, quote unquote, he said, walked 54 hours continuously on the 20th day of a fast.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
That's phenomenal. But I do think Arnold Ehret was someone with very different genetics also, and someone who is meant to come here and initiate some of those opening up of our true potentials, because our true potential does exist in there. To do, very miraculous, just different abilities that we have with our physiology, if we are able to open up, more primordial DNA, something like, even with breathing, like what Wim Hof is doing, definitely there is tremendous potential. So you did the master fast for, did you say 111 days?
Yeah.
In a row?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that came along in what part of your time frame was that?
I think about that was 2 years ago.
Okay, 2 years ago.
But I did that one. And before that, I've done water fasts, juice fasts. And after that, just did weekly dry fasts, stuff like that. Right now, for the past year and a half, I haven't wanting to know nothing about fasting. After several years of fasting, my body I would get the juice and I would think about it. My body would give strong signals that it didn't want to do a fast. So I wanted that.
Okay.
I used to do a fast. I used to do at least a month fast, or several 2-week fasts within a year, every year. And then when I did the longest the 111 days of the master fast, after that, my body, other than doing dry fast schedules or intermittent fasting, my body doesn't want to do a long fast. So, yeah.
You're listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're listening to your body, yes. But you have the health benefits of having done that already.
Yeah, so, and I don't know how much benefit really that was, and how much. There were some detrimental aspects of that. It might have been a little too long, even though when I finished, I was like, I can keep going, because you get used to not eating and just drinking juice.
Okay.
Just, if you're doing it for 111 days, that's like 3.5 months. It just it becomes your routine. They say you do something for 2 weeks, it becomes a habit.
Yes. Okay, I think that's
definitely. I noticed my teeth because drinking the grape juice, and I was drinking with the straw. I noticed some staining of the teeth. I got emaciated and looked like a concentration camp victim.
okay.
I got really skinny, and the reason why I did the fast was because I suspected I had some kind of malabsorption, but now I think differently. After that,
okay.
I was 90. I'm five. For the North American listeners, I'm 5'5", which is 1.67 meters, and I was weighing 99 pounds, and I got to 87 pounds. So basically, I dropped 12 pounds in 111 days, which isn't much if you think about it. But it was quite a bit, it was quite a bit for me because I looked like a concentration camp victim. So 99 pounds for those listening is about 45 kilos. And so, yeah, I dropped all that much and I got, really, really, really thin. And then when I started slowly getting back into eating little by little, I plateaued at about 101, so it allowed me, with not eating much, I was eating like maybe the first meal was maybe could be 24 or 32 ounces of juice or coconut water, and then the other two meals would be solid raw food meals, fruit and vegetable based. And I got to 101, so that fast kind of, if I did have malabsorption, it allowed me to gain 2 pounds. But I think that without doing any kind of physical work, any exercise, the body basically says, well, what do you need muscles for if you don't use them? So I started working out 6 months ago, and I've gained 9 pounds. Not much, but on a fruit-based diet, 9 pounds in 6 months, I guess. I'm still, I'm curious if I can actually go up in the next 6 months another 9 pounds. That would be interesting.
Nice.
Because I'm not eating more food than before. So I'm doing these experiments and, I'm keeping myself accountable. But I don't think that I was malabsorbed. And I think there's many people, you could be skinny, overly thin, and be malabsorbed. You could be overweight and be malabsorbed. Yes, that's true. But I'm starting to doubt that I'm malabsorbed. It's just, but the thing is that there's two different body types. There's people that put on weight really easy, and then those people who have a hard time putting on weight, no matter what they eat. Doesn't mean that the skinny person is less toxic than the overweight person. But for sure, an overweight person is never going to be healthy, whereas a skinny person could be healthy or could be unhealthy. And due to different, genetics and different factors, some of us, have a harder time putting on weight, and some of us have a harder time losing weight. But definitely, in my case, would be perceived as being underweight. Was just simply working out, doing some exercise 4 times a week on average. When I first started, I did up to 6 days a week, but now I'm at 4 times a week, going to the gym, lifting weights basically. And just that alone helped me build muscle mass and look a little more filled in and not look so much, not look too overly thin. But definitely so that's another thing, I got into this for health reasons, but I was never really into working out, or I thought working out, it's so boring. But thankful to these smartphones, and I can listen to, you can listen to podcasts, YouTube videos, and learn something, because I can't work out to music. I was a professional musician for most of my life, but I cannot work out to music. I have to have something, listen to something, stimulate my brain by listening to, learning. I like to learn things. And so that's my time to listen to different talks on different subjects and learn something while I work out. And I enjoy it, and time goes by, and that has resolved my issues. So I think another thing that people need, another component of not just what you eat, but we need to be doing some kind of exercise regimen whether it be cardio, whatever, swimming. It could be playing a sport. It doesn't have to be lifting weights. But I believe that, our species was not designed to be sedentary. We're designed to move, whether that is foraging for food, doing stuff. But we live a sedentary lifestyle, and I think that if we're going to be doing the eating aspect, we need to be doing the physical aspect as well to complement it. Whatever that exercise may be. You could choose whatever it is, whether it be dancing, yoga is good for everybody, whatever it is, but doing some exercise, or else you're not going to have any muscle mass. And a lot of people that are afraid on the raw foods journey, they say, well, I'm getting too thin. Well, the thing is that most of the muscle that people have is encased in a lot of fat. So you start losing the fat, and people think they're losing the muscle. But the body is extremely intelligent, and it has priorities. First, it's going to get rid of the fat before it even is going to think about getting rid of muscle. But what most people are losing is fat and thinking that they're losing muscle, unless you go on an extended juice fast like I did. The body's like, I need nutrients. I'm going to start eating up your muscles and make you look like a concentration camp victim. But my idea was that you like a house. You tearing down the sheetrock, the getting it down to the frame, so you can build it back up with good materials. I've been doing different fasts up to that point in the years prior. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing. There's many different viewpoints on it.
Self-experimentation is exactly what we're here for. We need the experiences, the understanding. I appreciate very much your candidness and being open about the fact, those two factors there are that some people do get hooked into the numbers, and it becomes a habit as opposed to really listening to your body, which you are emphasizing right now, that we have to, I would say listening to our intuition. And of course, we understand refining intuition is something that needs to be developed in order to hear clear advice from what we need to do. But it shouldn't be a numbers game. It should be, what we personally want to do and what we are, feeling is right. I have definitely seen a lot of disgruntled people and, read their comments about having been involved in some of the longer type fasts, that you've done, and not being happy with being told they should just, continue even though they're having damaging symptoms taking place. And, I was talking about that in the last show also, that there is a point where damage can be happening. And here, the whole attempt is to heal something. But of course, sometimes ego or the group momentum gets in there and people aren't listening to what may be best for them for whatever reason or whatever that is. And then you were talking about exercise. And of course, you and I understand that some of what has been talked about out there, and I heard this myself when I was in a detox group, that we should not do exercise doing it. And I'm an exercise person. I have a degree in teaching physical education. If I was not moving in that time, and when I'm not functioning properly. I just do not feel good at all. I understand heavy exercise, and I did express to the audience that
if you're doing a long-term juice fast or a water fast, you don't want to be doing extraneous exercise. Maybe some days you might be able to. If you're doing a juice fast or a water fast, I don't recommend, and that's because your body is you're not getting that extra, sugar, and so energy, and so. You wanna not yoga, doing light exercise, okay, but not extraneous exercise. And when you're fasting, no, I don't recommend. But when after fasting, yeah, for sure.
Yes, and some people are taking it to a little bit more not doing exercise at all. It's become like there are people on the internet I see now introducing a little bit more. No, movement has to be part of it and should be. And obviously there's different spaces to not go too heavy. And probably when I did the heavy metal cleanse in the past, the strenuous, heavier exercise is no good. But if I'm not, getting up and doing like walking like I like to in some sense of it, or even stretching and that I have to have that as part of my program. And I don't want to hear that, what I'm used to doing is going to be too much. And I'm not talking about a marathon running, stuff like that. We're talking about maybe a 3-mile walk or something, but I don't want to look at that as not being something I should, participate in a day.
I mean, your body will tell you, like, when I did my first water fast, I remember some days I had all this energy. My mind, the water fast for me was the most amazing. I would say it supersedes juice fast. And it was, I had this clarity of the mind and I wasn't tired. And then some other days I was tired. I was in slow motion. I would walk down the street and I was walking in slow motion like an old man because my body just couldn't. I couldn't, do any. And so I was just walking, still walk around the neighborhood, and I was just really not feeling so good that day, So those spurts that we were talking about, but so you feel it, but you don't want to push yourself. And one time when I was dry fasting, I almost passed out. I had to break a dry fast, and luckily I was able to get some coconut water. I was in Mexico, and I almost passed out.
Boy!
So you gotta be really careful. Yeah. So you don't want to. And that was just walking. Not just walking. I almost passed out. So people, they want to be prudent and just it's. I know people want to be able to say I fasted this many hours and that, but slowly, you get there.
But overall, we do want to just go back and note that proper fasting is one of the most highly beneficial methods that have helped people to heal all of these illnesses. So
for sure,
in whatever
I agree.
aspect, it is. But like you, I'm not gonna leave out the parts of how you need to be cautious, and you need to be paying attention, and you need to be do it with clarity, structure, and understanding. So let's talk a little bit. I'm just going to continue through the show and do commercials at the end since we lost a little time there in the beginning, and it's just flowing nice. So let's talk about breaking a fast and how, you did emphasize already the importance of, and we can maybe make that an emphasis about not just if you're intermittent fasting, but make it as a habit. Since breaking the fast is the same as breakfast, it's sort of the same place as to how we should redefine what we eat in the morning and when we eat in general, and then but we can start with how to break a fast first of all.
Okay,
I did read, I think it was Dr. Morris maybe saying, might have been Aaron, that there are not really general recommendations you can do because it depends upon what kind of an eater you were before you were doing the fast. And that is where when people break their fast, sometimes they've eaten the wrong thing and had some, bad symptoms from it, from how they, got themselves stuffed
and everybody knows the story of Bernard McFadden, who died breaking a fast with boiled potatoes.
Okay.
So because when you're in a fast, whether it be a juice fast or a water fast or any kind of liquid fast, you're getting this sludge come down your colon. So you want to be doing enemas or colonic hydrotherapy or a Kalima board to help aid your body in releasing, especially for those that are clogged up and those that are that wouldn't before the fast, like if they would eat fruit, they get bloated, they were bloated or gassy. Then you want to use these tools like enemas, Kalima board, or a professional colonics regularly to help assist in cleaning out the colon. And so then when you finish a juice fast, the general rule is for every 3 days of liquid fasting, you want 1 day of refeeding. So let's say you did a week, so you want to do, let's say 2 days and a half of refeeding. So what does that entail? When you break a fast, a liquid fast with foods, people will do with soaked prunes, like a handful of soaked prunes. You can also soaked overnight, or you can do it with some juicy fruits, a handful, whether it be tangerines, some orange, but a handful. And that's all you need for that day, and then continue with the liquids. You can do different other kind of liquids that maybe you didn't do during the fast, whether it be different juices for that. Second day, again, maybe you can do just, if you only did a week, same thing, a handful. Maybe you could just do a little tad more, but if you only did it a week, and then juice. Then the third day, maybe you can start adding, do that handful maybe twice, and then you go back, and then now you can add a second meal, and go that way. But if you've done it for 2 months, then you need to be careful, and that's where, or 3 months, like I did 3.5 months. That's you want to be going at it. You're talking about a few weeks of refeeding where you're not going to be ingesting that much food. You don't want to overburden your stomach because you didn't. It hasn't been active, so it shrunk, and so you want to go gentle little by little and not ingest. Go eat a pizza or a steak or anything that's hard on digestion, or a veggie burger or legumes or whatever. You want to eat easy to digest fruit. So you don't even want to eat the salad because that's harder to digest. So you want to break it with fruit, juicy fruit.
Okay. And very slowly, depending upon the time. Okay. And
the general rule, the consensus people talk about is basically for every 3 days of liquid fasting, you do 1 day of refeeding. So you can use that formula, and I feel that works just fine.
Okay. And you talked about using, I know some protocols talk about laxatives, maybe even before you do the fast or after you do a fast.
Well,
and then, of course,
I wouldn't do laxatives because you don't want to stress out the bowels. I'll do a enema, Kalima board, or colonic.
Okay. And
but that should be done. I believe that can be done and should be done throughout the fast. The more obstructed people are, the more they need to do it. Let's just say it that way.
Enemas. Mm-hmm. And then there are different types of enemas. I know that Dr. Morse has enema guidance in his, instructions for that in his book, his Detox Miracle book. And do you have any general recommendations for that? Is that something that's still, do you still do that as a maintenance, or
I don't. There are people that do, but I don't. I only do enemas if I'm doing fasting.
Okay.
Basically.
So during fasting too, and I have pretty much most people, not all detox groups say that, but most of the more prominent ones do agree with doing enemas to make sure that there's no obstructions happening during the fast and then after it, previous to, during, and after, I believe. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's some people, you do it with lukewarm distilled water. You can add lemon. Some people like to add different herbals, like Dr. Morris has a heal all tea, and they'll do that. But just stick with nice lukewarm body temperature distilled water.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a very good idea, and that helps for the fast to be safer also. Mm-hmm.
For sure, and also for those that are obstructed, so that way when you're releasing all these toxins, helps the bowels move them out. And so if you're having a headache or you're feeling under the weather, as they say, a lot of times you do an enema, you do a Kalima board, or the more water goes in there, the more you take out, you start noticing a difference and you feel better.
I haven't heard that before. You're calling it a kalemic board. are you saying?
Kalima board. Bernard Jensen, which is also a friend of Dr. Morse out of California, he invented, you can look it up on Amazon, they sell it, or on eBay, Kalima board. It's basically, it's this board that's designed for you to lay on that you put on top of the toilet with this 5-gallon bucket. And it's better than an enema in the sense because you can put 5 gallons in as opposed to 2 liters or a liter. And then after that, and that's something you can do at home, which is the closest thing to a professional colonic.
Oh,
and then
okay.
The professional colonic, I can get more water in, and it's even better, especially if it's one administered by a hydrocolonic therapist, which will, you're going to massage your bowels, but they'll know and do different things and guide you through. So those are the 3 different types of colon hydrotherapy.
Okay, very good. Very good. Okay. Well, any last notations that you would like to say, that you would like to add about cleansing, fasting in general? Anything that you could think of? That's about all the topics that I had generally, looked at that I had wanted to have you talk with us today. That brings a great deal of clarity into these areas. Definitely, settled some places inside me that were kind of like up in the air about which way to go with them. So is there anything else you would like to add?
No, what I'd like to add is just to go slow, and especially for the impressionable people, whether that means the younger population, take everything with a grain of salt. Don't only follow one guru. Listen to what they say. And as you work on your intuitive body and you reclaim that power you give away to where you trust yourself and love yourself unconditionally, your intuitive sense will develop, and you'll be able to decipher signals your body's sending. But don't just blindly follow any so-called guru, no matter what title they have behind their name. We all are born with an innate, knowing, and we all have our own barometer, and go slow and be gentle, and it's not a competition.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you. And then the area that was only gently touched on and was that the space to remind people going into both, just even from changing their diet and eliminating some foods, but especially in cleansing and fasting, that the emotions that come up, as you were saying, from day to day can be very profound. And actually that was another area of approach for people to understand that as they're detoxifying, one, you are releasing waters in the body that stores memory, and there's emotional traumas in the memory of that, and that comes up to the surface again. As well, even if you have been a pharmaceutical user or even a recreational drug user, that those chemicals can be stored in your body, your physiology, and as you begin to detox, that will be fluctuating in your bloodstream again. There are very many, I've watched people post, as well as when I was in a detox group, for example, it was a group detox taking place, and the person who was running it was on live Facebook while one person in the group called in from the hospital, because as they started to detox on the protocol that was recommended that we were all doing, she ended up in the hospital with hallucinations. And that, that's a space that has to be understood, because if you've taken antidepressants, which can in and of themselves cause more even suicidal thoughts, there are people who have openly talked about in groups that guidance, backup, good friends, people who do spiritual healing work, and work with them during a very serious detox to make sure that you're able to be stable in emotional spaces through there, because it can be very strong. One woman wrote about, how, and she's well up in the groups and highly practitioner, I think was one of the Dr. Morris groups, how during one of her fasting spaces, she really had experienced suicidal thoughts again as a result of the prescription meds coming out of her tissues and circulating in her bloodstream again. So those people who have taken pharmaceuticals for longer periods of time need to be cautious, because they can have some serious symptoms with that, and hallucinating even.
No, well, if you're on, those types of, medications, that's something they need to talk with their physician and stuff to, if it can be reduced. Some people need to wean off. And what happens, a lot of people are stopping their medication cold turkey, and certain medications you can't stop them cold turkey. You've got to be weaned off. These were people who had been off them for a while. So just for the listeners' understanding, so this wasn't a recommendation to do a fast and come off of your medications at that time. But if you have been off of your medications and they are stored in your system, they can begin to be recirculated in your system again. Yeah, so these were cases where they were recirculated. Yeah. So there is a caution with also, having used pharmaceuticals that are in the body. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Because you want different people might need to go slower than others, and that's, and know when to slow down. For sure. Yes.
Well, that's a nice space. I think that then coming into next week, I will definitely I think I'm going to come on then and do a show about managing those symptoms of emotional detoxification in that space. So, well, Ivo, thank you. Even though we had a little bump there, it went very well. By the way, the microphone sounded great. So I don't know what you have changed. I kept picturing you maybe that you were going to just Vaseline the whole beard over, away from the microphone.
Well, I braided it, so it wouldn't.
You braided it.
But I'm not moving my head as like I was the last time when I was out and about in the wind factor and other noises. Sure.
Well, it worked perfect. So as everyone knows now, yes, that was Ivo's beard that was having a little bit of an issue with the microphone there, that every time he talked, his beard was rustling there. So, well, thank you. That was wonderful advice. Awesome. And very good. And I highly appreciate you for coming on these 3 weeks and doing this in here. So, and if you feel we'll leave it open still. If you feel there's another topic that you felt we needed to do one more, you can let me know that. Otherwise, I will come back next week and we will look at emotional detoxification, because certainly when I went through my first one and came off caffeine, it was extremely hard. I have recently gone back on a little caffeine, but it's nothing. It's easier to come off it now than when I was coming off of 40 years. And when someone is taking away, and especially for women who have had stronger emotional attachments, especially maybe if there's some really serious trauma situations, and coffee for me was my teddy bear, my blanket, my security space, my go-to through my roughest, hardest transition times. And in a sense, it also, when I was going out of body in trauma, it would keep me back in my body. But then the prolonged use of it was exceptionally harmful for me. So I understand deeply the emotional spaces that people have being attached to certain foods. When you have someone, for instance, I know someone who's been ritually abused for 14 years as a child, and you try to take food items away or some security blanket, something that was associated with the only security they had in their life at that time, that's a very deep process of removing that attachment level and replacing something else in there. So there are very strong considerations in there. I think, it's very advisable in those cases. I do have a little disgruntlement sometimes with the space that a lot of detoxification specialists begin to overwork their space and state that this is total spiritual development, food only is the only way, and it cures everything, and that's just not true. That is not an absolute space. It can happen for many people, but to really be balanced, spirituality work or healing work in general with any kind of a practitioner that you feel is appropriate for you is very important in many cases. So should not always be in as absolute or sell that notation that this is the only spiritual route. So I have a little bit different views on some of those opinions being given. So on that note, we'll come back next week with week 4, and I'll announce what that is. So we'll talk with you in between then. So thank you, Ivo. Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye now.
All right, you take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, and I'm just going to end the show, everyone else, here with 3 commercials and then say goodbye. And thank you for hanging in through a little bit of a rocky beginning. And we will see you next week. Have a beautiful and joyous week. Bye-bye now.
Feminine Frequency Radio Network hosts shows 7 days a week. Call in to listen live 929-477-1183 and dial 1 to connect to the studio to ask a question, or listen online via blogtalkradio.com/Feminine Frequency Radio Network. Organic Frequency Radio Show is 1.5-hour live chat with Stephanie and Oksana and their lovely guests about the nature of existence and holistic way of living here and now, and perhaps even after. Join us every Monday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Call-in number to listen live is 929-477-1183, and to ask a question, press 1 to connect to the studio. Our guests share their stories and walking path of their healing, along with services that they have developed and packaged for the rest of the world to experience and benefit from. We're here to hold a space for an exchange of experiences for the purpose of evolvement and expansion of consciousness.
Hello and welcome. You are now entering the corridors of Twilight Epiphanies Talk Radio with your host, Cindy Magnuson, premiering Thursday evenings, 7 to 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on Feminine Frequency Radio Network. You are invited on a talk radio journey to the center of self. Join us as Cindy guides you, the listeners, in sensory and perception upgrades where revelations and golden epiphanies pierce the veils of illusion. Don't miss this opportunity for your next dose of Twilight Epiphanies. Hello everyone and welcome to